All right. So the first thing I want to tell you again is that it's a great honor for me to be speaking with you today. And of course, I was one of these millions that watched your movie, that the movie you wrote, The Before Sunset and Sunrise and Midnight. And it was actually very, very famous in Russia as well.
Was it?
Super famous. So
Oh,
when I talked to my clients and I said, we're gonna have a chance to actually speak with the scriptwriter, and they were all, oh my god, because this the movies everybody knew. And the most important that I would love to pay attention on here is that there's so many movies and there's so many different plots and everything, but very rarely you can watch a movie which makes you think, not just think whatever, not just fantasize something, but actually think about some very natural problems, some very natural, traits of character that we might all have inside, and how to work with that, and relationship and love story, which is not comedy, not something very commercial, but real. And
mhm.
that's why we loved the movie, in my opinion, because the dialogues were so, so deep. And I'm going to ask you some of the questions that my clients wanted me to ask you today. They got prepared. So, but that's we're going to do later. The first thing I would like to ask you before we start it all um, is if you were writing a book today, for example, and that would be your last book ever written, what would be the title?
You know, I think it would be River of Dreams.
Wow. How many chapters would it have? Will there be any chapters?
Maybe five chapters. I just quickly went through my life and I thought of specific phases that I've gone through that have had arcs, and some were difficult. And I feel the whole thing is sewn together in the end with one big arc. But in my mind, I just quickly thought that there would be five phases to, or so five chapters.
Amazing. So, five main chapters of your life,
I
basically.
think so. So far, that's the way I see it. I mean, I don't think I'm done yet, but I just wrapped up the end of my life in one chapter. I don't know, maybe it will break down into more than I'm thinking now, but I'm thinking five
Amazing.
chapters.
I love this question because, when my clients come to me for the first session, I ask them 75 questions. And these 75 questions are kind of like that, and they're very metaphorical. I do believe that when we work with different images and characters and metaphors and all that stuff, our brain kind of relaxes and we can really get the information we want. We can really work with our subconsciousness. So when I ask this question, it's always about wholeness of the personality. It's something that not our brain tries to find as right or normal, as appropriate for this particular question, but it kind of becomes real in a way, and we try to pay attention to the heart of who we are,
Uh-huh.
and of inner conflicts, or of what we believe in, and what is the sense for us. So as far as I see that, it's like the sense for you is basically the dreaming, the river of dreams, that you never ever should stop dreaming, in a way, but not in this not in this primitive way like all the coaches today promote, but in something really deep, because dreaming is also creating. While we dream, we create more and more and more. So we're constantly writing our stories. And that's amazing because you're a scriptwriter, you're a writer. And uh, in my opinion, the most powerful people today. The biggest magicians are writers, because
Oh,
when we get this information from, we never know where it comes to us, we
mhm.
become really magical. We really can create magic, in my opinion. And can you tell me, how did you start? Just to get an idea of how did you start writing? Where did it come for you from?
As a child, I immediately loved writing. I remember we had to write and draw and bind our own little books when I was in second grade. So that would have been age 6, 7. And I loved that so much. I loved books and I loved stories and I loved listening to the teachers reading stories. So I loved going into my imagination. And I suppose to a degree that was an escape from reality, but also it was finding the deeper meaning in what was in life, I suppose. When I wrote with Before Sunrise with Richard Linklater, he had asked me to write with him because I was finishing a degree as I was studying literature. And so I was very interested in analyzing. Well, it wasn't really that dry. I just loved stories and characters and getting to understand the meaning of life via the stories people wrote. But and I was very interested in the psychology of creativity, and that's what I was doing my work on. But when he asked me to write with him, I had never written a screenplay. And I said, well, what would the movie be about? And he said, a boy meets girl story. And when we got together to write, I told him that I had traveled by train and that I had had these wonderful conversations on the trains, meeting people and maybe getting off the train and maybe walking around and talking. So um, for me, it's a metaphor, it's symbolic of like the train, I guess, much like the river, it keeps going and it experiences different landscapes. And a river is experiencing different landscapes. So I, for me, I guess writing is to I guess what we're doing when we're writing is we're figuring out who we are and what we think, because something's
Mhm,
pouring out on the page and we don't really know
mhm.
what's coming through us, but we look at it and we're like, "Oh, that's who I am."
Or what I can be, who I can
That's
be.
right. That's right.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Have you ever had an idea or a wish of desire, I don't know, of imitating your own character? You know, sometimes you write a character and you fall in love with the character so much that you actually want to be like this character suddenly. And you see how you change in real life by accident. You don't even plan it, but somehow you're changing automatically. Did it
You
happen
know,
to you?
that yeah, that's interesting because say for example with Before Sunrise. Obviously, I was writing with Linklater and we were just conversing together. And that's how those characters happen. So that's a big piece of me in that character. And then Richard Linklater is to a large degree the male character. And after people saw the movie, when the movie came out, people said to me, "Oh, that was just like conversing with you." And I had never seen myself like that. I watched the movie and I saw somebody else in a sense playing myself. And I think I understood her. And so it was a way to understand myself. And I thought, oh, that's what people see of me. That's who I am. I had never seen myself as like I guess in a way the word would be objectified and in not in a negative way,
Mhm.
in a positive way. I'd never seen myself as a character, as an object, as this person on the screen.
Mhm.
And so that helped me understand myself better.
Mhm.
Um, people had told me, you know how people react to you and they characterize you, but you can't quite see yourself.
Right.
So that helped me to understand who I was better. And in a way, I guess I suppose I after I it took me a long I suppose it took me years in a way to
Mhm.
understand her. And I suppose in a way that I was like, oh, it's almost like a mask of a sort, but it's not a mask in a negative way. It's more
Exactly.
like a protective thing. It's a character, it's a protection, it's a mask that protects. And it's like there's much more going on under the surface, but that's who she is to the world. And so I can play her.
Right. So then you found that that can be a superpower, and you just can now take her as your tool and use when you need it. It's amazing because in my life, I wrote a story when I was 22, and that story was so powerful for me because I always was searching for some answers, and I wanted to meet a person, a woman, older woman, who could just answer me, all my questions. And I didn't want it to be my mom or somebody I knew. I just wanted to be, some random person that suddenly comes in front of me and tells me everything I should know. And so I wrote that story about the older lady and the young girl who met, and there's a dialogue between them that basically answered all my questions that I had back in the days in my mind. And this woman, which I invented, became my idol. So she always helped me. She when I was in a bad moment, when I didn't know what to do, when my reactions were not right, and I didn't know how to change them, and when I was totally messed up, I always thought, what would she do? How would she react? And what would she say? And then I would have read my story again and take some of the phrases and just tell them to somebody, and it changed everything. So back at that, going back there, I realized that, okay, so basically now I can be like her more and react like her more, and that's how I raised myself. That's how I grew up with the character I invented. So when people ask me, where did you find this, where did you find that meaning, how did you learn this or that, I always say, I don't go to study it so much. I study from my own characters.
Right.
And as you also mentioned, it's not a mask, but it is, but it's not, because it's still you. You don't imitate someone, you imitate your own creation. And that's absolutely amazing.
It sounds to me like you were contacting a higher self or Jung.
Hmm.
Jung would have that sounds very Jungian to me. It's
Right.
contacting an archetypal self who is wise. Because do you know how in dreams, how we know so much more in dreams than in real life? How sometimes
Right.
we find the truth of what's going on in our daily life, or we know the meaning of words that perhaps we wouldn't use in our daily life. There's a wise self,
Absolutely.
and yeah, she might be older than our chronological self in the material world, but she's there, and yes, and she helps us.
Absolutely. And that's the whole idea of me helping people to create their alter egos, because it's not just inventing a superhero, but it's actually a real conversation with your higher self, which always changes also because it comes to you in different forms. So in this form, that was the lady, she was French, she was a little weird and whatever, and she lives in America. But I wrote so many different other novels, and there also were all alter egos of myself as well, and the alter egos of people. And I saw how we all are characters, we all are actors, and you don't need to play a movie to actually become an actor.
Hmm.
The first thing you have to do is to try to do it in their big show in life, because this is the biggest show of all. And as I worked with artists for quite a long time, I saw how they know how to be on stage, they know how to be in a movie, they know how to be, I don't know, a writer, but they don't know how to play their own selves. They don't know who they are. They need somebody to tell them who they are, and then they're successful. But if nobody tells them what to do, they're lost. So that's why so many artists are so lost and so unhappy in real life and miserable.
Hmm.
And I used to create alter egos. I worked with some of my clients who were artists, and we create alter egos for the real life, not for the stage. As usual, it happens for the stage, but in this case, it was for just the real life, who you are here on the biggest stage of your life. And, and it's always through the character, because we cannot look at ourselves like that. We always find something good or bad. We're going to always protect ourselves, our mind will always protect. But then when we depersonalize from who we are today and how people think about us, we suddenly can see that there is something else. There is another character. And it's all about writing. That's why
Hmm.
it's impossible when clients come to me and say, "Oh, I don't write. I don't like to write." I said, "Well, I'm sorry, then we cannot work together." Because writing is the magical tool that will open up so much for you. Otherwise, your mind will always mess it up. And when we go to writing, do you have any specific rituals? I will give an example. I used to know a writer. His name was Gonzague Sambris, and he was one of my idols also. And he always told me that he died already. He had an accident, but he wrote more than 40 books. And every time he said, "Sophie, you have to wake up 4 o'clock in the morning, no matter how you feel. You go, you wake up, and you write at least 2 words. And then you continue when you wake up again after a couple of hours." And I said, okay.
Hmm.
So he wrote all his books by hand. I mean, he wrote
Hmm.
like a couple of sentences, for example, 4 o'clock in the morning, and then he will open the computer, would open the computer and continue.
Hmm.
But that was the ritual that he had, and he claimed that he was connected at that moment to the higher self, to God, whatever. And this is a specific moment for him. Do you have any specific rituals of how to write?
Well, I very much like what he did, and I agree completely. I definitely write by hand. I call it streaming, where I pour out my thoughts so that I can clear them before, if say I'm working on a specific project, what I need to do before I work on that project is I need to clear out all of the static in my head. And I need to do it in a way where I won't feel that I'm judging or being judged. So I just pour out my thoughts so that I can clear them out of my mind. I, I, I will often, in the morning, I feel like I'm more opened up emotionally and my subconscious is opened up. So, for example, if say this morning I wanted to work on one of my writing projects, I would first go to my journal and by hand, because I believe writing by hand goes deeper into the mind, I would clear out whatever's on my mind, which might be worries, or maybe there something interesting happened yesterday that I want to record, this I
Mm,
spoke to this or that person. Or if I have complaints or if there's something in the news that's bothering me and I need to like purge it out,
mhm,
I write it out until I feel like I got it out, because then I feel calm and I feel focused. and I can then concentrate on
Mm,
the job at hand, which is working on my project.
that's
So,
interesting.
yeah, so some people call it stream of consciousness writing. I call it streaming because I feel like at any moment I can jump into it or jump out of it. But I feel like sometimes it builds up where I have a lot to say and it's just stuff I need to get out of my system. And I like to have a record of it that nobody has access to but me.
Hmm.
Because if I think that somebody else is going to read it, I may, I may be, I may change things and make them more, I may not want to complain, say, or I may not want to use bad words or, but I basically want to be as truthful as I
As you
can
can.
to myself
Right.
because that helps me contact the real thing that I want to get to. If I can
Mhm.
just say those things, then I can push it aside and get to the real job at hand.
So basically, the journal streaming is one of the most, it's like a cleansing. It's super important. I agree totally. And, we have in our program, I always give the clients this kind of task to do the devil's diary and the angel's diary. So two diaries.
Oh,
So
that's good.
in the devil's diary, we write everything that comes to our mind, even if we feel guilty for that, for all our thoughts, the dirty thoughts, the whatever nasty things we think about or we do, whatever. So it's the devil's part. And the angel's part is something that we're good in, right? So something that we really want to help with the world and all our beautiful ideas and everything we feel. And nothing is bad or good, right? The devil is not something bad. It's just another part of us that actually sometimes gives us a lot of strength. So it's also our power. But we have to learn how to deal with it and how to control it. So we work a lot with this. These things. So I really understand this journal streaming. It's incredible. And I always tell my clients to do that. And not all of them understand how important it is. So thank you for mentioning that. But if we start, let's now speak characters. Like if we suddenly decide to be a scriptwriter of our own life and we don't like anymore how the life is, we don't like the crisis, we don't like the routine, we want to be different. And in my program, we start from a name because the name is an energy code. So it always has a meaning. So when I start writing in my life, in my routine of writing, the first thing I look for is the name, and only after that I see the character perfectly. And I go deep down to the meaning of the name, and it always super right. It goes right to the point. So I have many names of myself because every name means something, and depending on which period of time I am right now in, uh, the name always comes super accurate. Like it's amazing. So what do you start with? What do you think is the best way to start writing the character when we talk about not just the character, but ourselves? What do we start from?
That's a good question. Um, I would probably start, I love that you start from the name, and I think that's very, very powerful. So that's an excellent way to start. I think if I were talking to my students, one of besides factual information, like what gender is this person? What age is this person? Where do they live? What is their ethnicity? What sort of socioeconomic situation do they live in? Um, do you know what they do, or do they have a job? Are they a student? In what field do they work in? Something that is very, very important, I tell my students, is what is their problem? What is their world? So, I usually say, I usually say at the beginning of, say, writing a feature film, brainstorm out the facts of your character's self. What is their world? For example, if you've seen the movie Rocky, which is
Hmm.
a famous American movie about a boxer,
Right.
he is a down and out boxer living in, he's about 30 years old, Italian American, living in Philadelphia. And his world is the world of boxing in Philadelphia, but it is not the elite sports world. It is the down and out boxing world. The people that he works with are scrappy. He trains in a gym that is not a beautiful place. So it's the down and out boxing world. And then I ask my students, what is his problem? Well, he he does not have a lot of money. He wants desperately to be a boxer. He doesn't have confidence. He really doesn't have a lot of self-respect. He gets no real respect in the world he lives in. He's not treated well. And he fights in the boxing ring for very little money, getting punched in the face for very little money. So his world, we have him, we have his world, and we have his problem. He gets punched in the face for very little money. And
Hmm.
so he has to take a side job, which is an illegal job, working as the muscle for a bookie. So his job is to threaten people who need to pay their gambling addicts. And he needs to threaten them to pay the person they owe the money to. So
Right.
that's a lot. It's the guy, the world, and the problem. And so with every movie that we examine, I ask in very simple terms, who's the character? What's their world? What's their problem? And so when they're writing their own stories, I then ask, who's your character? What's their world? What's the character's problem? So for example, it could be you have a 40-year-old mother living in Los Angeles, California, in a middle class home
Hmm.
in the suburbs. And her problem is she has an unruly family and she's trying to raise the kids up right, but she has a secret longing to be more, you know?
Right.
And so then it's simple.
And how can we shift it to the alter ego? So basically, an alter ego also has a problem, but we don't talk about the problems yet. We're creating a higher version of ourselves, right? The best version that can be. And that's what you're saying about the problems. We call it, in my course, we call it field of play. So we basically decide on in which area of our life, of course we have a problem probably there if we want to improve this sphere. So for example, it's a career and the person is really having troubles with career and money, and the most important for the person is to create a character that will actually be successful, that is already successful, that is already earning a lot of money, and how would this character do, what he would say, and blah blah blah. So we decided that our field of play of our problem is this. We see how everything, what is the past of the problem, so how we came here, so all the scripts that we had before, and then we have to write, we have to continue writing about the character, we have to invent a new version of ourselves. Where then we can move, how maybe you can give us a trick, something that is something special to make the character, really really live.
Yes. Well, so for example, let me go back to the Rocky example.
Hmm.
We start with this person who is beset with problems, but over the arc of his story, He continually faces problems, and his character is strengthened by the problems so that at the end of the movie, he comes into a part of himself that he could only dream of in the beginning. He is, at the end, a person who had no clue on earth that he could possibly get in the ring with the heavyweight champion of the world and give that heavyweight champion of the world a real run for his money. Rocky fought Apollo Creed in the ring in front of a worldwide audience. And because he was a humble person, his only goal was to stay in the ring and to to have some dignity in that ring because he did not believe he was capable of winning. And yet his goal had just simply, I want to stand up in the ring and have dignity. I want to um, give it a real shot. I want to show the world. This is how he put it. This is how he put it. I'm not just another bum from the neighborhood. That
Mhm.
for him was the goal. And when he went into the ring, not only did he fulfill that, but he stood up against Apollo Creed and he fought till the end of the fight, showing the world that even though the world didn't think he had it in him, he found it within himself. He had the strength, he had the heart, he could do
Mhm.
it, and he stood up. So it's not that the character goes in necessarily believing, but something in them keeps driving them, keeps motivating them to find a higher self. And that I think is like the human, that it's part of us that wants to come to fruition. Rocky didn't even believe he had it in himself. And
Mhm.
yet, at the end of the movie, he's a hero, not because he won the fight, but because he stood up and found himself. So his arc is a beautiful arc of you keep standing up, you keep standing up, you don't fold, you don't fall. Even though you may have moments of doubt,
Mhm.
you keep standing up over and over. You get up, you get up, you get up, you get up. And it's the way I think we're motivated. Like you see this in life, and it keeps trying, it keeps trying. And so I tell my students, why, I ask them, why is your character motivated to keep trying? Why?
Right.
Why? And they have to dig down.
Right.
So they'll say, because she 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 wants to find love, or she wants to show the world she can do it, or she wants to show that she's not just another bum from the neighborhood, you know?
Right. It should be, as I hear you speaking, I think it should not be just some easy materialistic goal. Like I want to have, yeah, it has to be something really deep meaning that you have inside and you want to probably prove to somebody, right? Like he had this dignity searching, he was searching for dignity and wanting everyone to see that. So that's the clue, because that's how you, when you depersonalize yourself and you create a character which eventually is you, you always have to look at this character and remember, why is this character here? Why the audience has to look at this character and watch this movie, and what is actually the power of him, right?
Absolutely. For like with Rocky,
Hmm.
I'm not a male. I'm not Italian. I'm not, I don't live in Philadelphia. I'm not a boxer. But for me, the character he's a universal character that we can all have an experience through because
Absolutely.
we all feel we all feel like we want respect. We want self-respect. We want the world to see that we're not just another bum from the neighborhood. We can have a journey through the character, and that's why the movie was successful. So we can latch on to any character and feel their journey and feel how they keep trying, they keep trying, they keep trying. And that's so these are archetypes in us. Like the down and out boxer is an archetype within us that who we can have a journey through.
Exactly. That's actually a very good alter ego example also, because a lot of men can choose Rocky as an alter ego. So the character that they can actually follow if they have a problem and they lose themselves and they don't know what to do, and then suddenly they remember Rocky, and they can try to imitate him a little bit. But in this case, when we create in our alter egos, we don't follow any existing characters. We try to invent our own, and that's why writing is so important. So the first thing that we do is we're finding this goal, which has to be deep and really meaningful. And how do you think we can stick to this goal? Maybe we can find, for example, like if we're creating a character right now, how can we see, I don't know, find maybe something, some tool that can help us to never forget that we have this goal, and the character has this goal. But in this case, it's us. So how we can help ourselves never forget that we are actually following this goal, and that's so important. Maybe it can be some little thing that will remind us that, hey, I'm here. Like, like a goal is a character itself.
Well, I'm a very visual person.
Hmm.
So I see things very much in terms of pictures and in terms of symbols. So as you were saying that, I was thinking to myself that a character I continually find myself latching onto is the femme fatale character from, say, 1930s or 40s films. I
Hmm.
love those beautiful femme fatale characters.
Right.
I'm thinking of some of my all-time favorite movies. They are, for example, in Double Indemnity, the character of Phyllis, played by Barbara Stanwyck, is, and they have, sometimes they have evil goals, but I don't have my, I'm thinking of her in a deeper way. So I'm thinking of some other wonderful characters from the 30s, always blondes for some reason.
Right.
Um, I see them I see them as women, young women who have been kicked around by life. But I see that under many layers of protection and maybe pain, I see a heart in there that wants to beat and wants to connect. And so as you were talking, I was thinking, yes, my character might be one of these femme fatale characters who has been kicked around. It's a tough world. It can be a harsh world. And she might have developed layers of protection and she's tough. But what she really wants is love and connection with other people. And so I see her in my mind's eye that when you were talking, I saw her searching the world, and though she had to play the game, which in her in the tough world, though she had to play a game, what she really wanted was to find her people. And those people she could show her real heart to underneath the layers. Here's my real heart. So I saw this beautiful red sparkling heart that
Hmm.
she could give to. So what I would suggest is that people have a picture in their mind, and that maybe under the character that symbol is something they're going toward or they're wanting to reveal. at the
Mm-hmm.
end of their journey that is in, they can safely reveal that symbol and maybe embrace it. So whether it's a heart or whether it's some other visual they have.
Like a real visual symbol, not just a scene, but a symbol that you can stick to in a way,
Yes,
right?
or maybe a scene. I
Or
mean,
maybe a scene.
whatever touches them.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's a star, maybe it's a beautiful picture, maybe it's a scene, maybe it's a picture of their character on a throne. Maybe it's their character surrounded by people who love your character. Maybe it's with a
Mm-hmm.
with a partner or or a child or animals or I don't know, but whatever touches them.
I was thinking right now, that it's so important. I mean, we all know that, but we always forget. It's so important to notice little things that, like our wins, in a way, during the our path, during the way, because when we forget the goal and when we lose ourselves, and suddenly something really good happens, something that we're looking for, but it's so little that we don't really pay attention on that, but it's actually something that makes us moving a little more forward, uh, towards our goal. And for example, when you were saying about this, for example, femme fatale woman who really wants love and connection, and for example, she's in a bad position, but tomorrow suddenly she meets someone who is very nice to her, and that's a reminder like, hey, you're on your path. That's fine. You're moving on the right direction. So it's like these little things can always remind you that actually you are on your way. And please don't forget about your goal, because you always wanted to feel loved. And here's somebody who loves you so much suddenly. So when
Right.
we really pay attention on something that happens to us, even very little things, that makes us feel what we're really looking for feeling, we have to almost write it down. We have to really remember that and basically be, okay, grateful as well to that. It's happening already. You just notice it. You have to notice it. So I feel so warm right now, speaking about that, because the biggest problem of everyone, of especially in terms of working on ourselves, working psychologically on your ego, is that we work so hard, we try to change so hard, that we forget to pay attention on little details that are happening and that are actually changing everything. Because it's not something huge that changes yourself, it's always very little. And if you are able to pay attention on that and to notice that, it changes everything so quickly.
That works very well with storytelling. When one is writing a feature film, there are a number of little what we call turning points.
Mm-hmm.
And with each moment that comes in a feature film, there's an opportunity for the characters. Sometimes they there there are often problems that come, and yet there are opportunities for the character so that there's an arc that goes up. It's going up toward the goal. And so it could be that a challenge comes to the character that is difficult or painful, but it can make the character stronger, and oftentimes movies are about a character facing problems that are difficult and seem to be dragging them down to what I call the dark night of the soul, where one feels all is lost, all is lost. I am most certainly done now. It's over for me. I'm a loser.
Mm-hmm.
But one then something shifts, something changes, and then suddenly one is rising again. So those little turning points, you never know what's coming tomorrow. It could be you meet somebody. It could be you have this new energy. It could be
Hmm.
you have a new idea, you know. It could be,
Exactly.
yeah, it could be you get a letter in the mail or you meet somebody on a train. And
Right.
suddenly it's like you're making it happen. It's happening through you because you take the opportunity you didn't lie down and die. You took the opportunity to take one more chance, and some of the chances, bring you down and you think, I'm done now. It's all done. I'm so stupid. But then something happens and you're like, oh, no, no, no. The world just opened up again.
Exactly. And that's when we have to notice that. And that's absolutely true because I remember also when I was studying script writing, there was always this phrase that I will never forget, and that actually helped me so much in my life is every obstacle as an opportunity. That was my, like, the phrase that I put basically on the fridge, and I said, oh my God, every time there is an obstacle, it's an opportunity. And also, that's why the movie goes on. Because otherwise, if there are no obstacles, you die. That's it. The movie is not interesting anymore.
Absolutely. A movie is about problems, a
Mhm.
character facing problems.
Right. And that's how our life is. Our big life is about basically facing problems. However, we can decide how we can color these problems ourselves. We can make them bright and interesting or awful and dark. But that's our perception. And that's the perception of the character. So when we create our alter ego, we have to really write down in details every reaction the alter ego has and how the alter ego reacts, how the character reacts on this particular situation, on this, and etc. And that's what we do, and that really helps. So it's not about not facing any problems because then the movie is finished, but it's about how you face and to see that the obstacle is an opportunity. What do you think is the most, um, I would call it heavy emotion that one might have um, while changing life script?
I think a lack of hope. I think feeling hopeless is the heaviest. And that is what I call the dark night of the soul.
Mm.
When the character believes that they're finished and that there's nothing to live for. Um,
And what
and
can we do? How can we change this direction?
the character has to keep, get up, stand up one more time. And even though they're frightened, even though they're depleted, even though everything feels so gray, they need to stand up again and give it another try because that's perhaps it's total desperation at that point. Desperation is not the worst thing.
Mm.
Desperation, I think, often leads to the best. I think when the character is stripped down and there's nothing left, they have total freedom then to give it their best shot.
Mm.
So even though they feel that they don't have an ounce of energy, they stand up one more time and give it another shot. And then they realize, oh, I had so much more in me and I just didn't know it because I was tired. I was I just was blind for a moment to who I am and what I can do in this life.
If you could see the, for example, let's take anxiety, which is one of the most also heavy emotions and feelings that one can have. And if you could see it as a character, as a real character, how would it look like? Anxiety. What would it look like?
Oh, I just saw a monster who's just covered in like fringy garbage.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, just a big mound of just weighed down so that he can't almost can't breathe.
Mm.
And
And how can you help this character? What can you do to make the breathe him breathe?
I just saw coming back to the source, which is not weighed down and is a light. Um, and my kitty,
Mm-hmm.
a light that is clean and pure energy and is not weighed down by garbage,
Mm-hmm.
is pure breath and light.
That's very beautiful. That could be a meditation, you know? If you do the guided meditation, that would have been beautiful because while you were saying that, I could see this, like very really dirty and kind of smelly person full of stuff. And it's not bad. It's just like that. It has all of that. It's homeless and it's a little crazy and it doesn't know what to do. And then you take this clothes out one after another, till you see a very beautiful person, very clean and beautiful and bright and with smiling, and maybe even with nothing, with no clothes at all, but just totally pure. And that's when it comes to a calmness. This is beautiful.
Pure energy.
Your energy, yeah. This
The
is beautiful.
the real core of us, pure energy that sees past all of the garbage.
Amazing. I love it. I always write letters to my feelings and to my emotions. And I used to do it when I was a kid, and I still do it. And I give it as a task also to my clients. For example, if you're sad, don't try to face sadness. Like, don't try to compete with it. Don't try to, be in a battle with it. Write a letter, ask sadness what it's about, why did it come. Maybe it's a she, maybe it's a he, you don't know. Invent the character and write a letter to that and see what comes out. And always very interesting thoughts comes out when people start writing the letter to their own feeling. It's beautiful, beautiful ritual
That's
also.
a that's such a wonderful technique. I've never heard of that, that you writing a letter to a
To
feeling.
a
I love
feeling,
that.
like if it was a character.
Love
I
it.
I really do collect characters, and in everything. I try to see character in absolute everything that surrounds me, and I try to see movie scenes also in everything that surrounds me. So it usually really helps, and everything that we're talking about right now with you makes me feel so fulfilled because I see, like, suddenly you see that nothing is really serious. Everything is a movie, right? Oh, wow, everything is a game. And as longer as we remind about that to ourselves and actually live like that, life becomes so much easier, so much more beautiful. But we have to really start writing our life. Do you believe that we can rewrite our life and our past and our future and everything? Just take a
Oh,
pen and rewrite it.
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's absolutely possible to change it's like the frame, changing the frame of
Mhm.
our lives is very possible. So if we've had, say, a very difficult past, very painful things have happened, as I think we all have,
Of course.
it's very possible to just reframe and see ourselves as a character who survived tough things, but look at the character now. I love the Cinderella stories. I love that. That always, even as a tiny child, I loved the Cinderella stories, which by the way, I found out that I thought the Cinderella stories were from the 17th century, but I found out that probably they're older. The Cinderella story may be about 2,000 years old, and it may be based on a Greek slave girl character.
I didn't know
But
that.
oh, I love it. But I love the idea of the unloved little girl her father is gone. She's being raised by the hateful stepmother and the hateful stepsisters who have made her the kitchen maid, the cinder girl. And it's all through magic. It's all through magical things. Like I love the pumpkin and all that stuff.
Mhm.
She goes on the pumpkin in the pumpkin chariot and she goes to the ball. And I know that we have the prince and the magical glass slipper and all that, and there's now this feminist reading of that, but I don't like to look at it in a negative way. I like to see it in a positive way.
Right.
That she finds love, that he realizes her real worth and her real value because her foot fits in the glass slipper. And that she then, through his love, realizes that a, she was not the little maid. She was not the little cinder girl. She actually was a very special person and maybe a princess. So to me, that the symbolism of that, I think it's many thousands of years old to find your real identity. Even if the
Mhm.
world doesn't know who you really are, if you recognize and discover, that's maybe the better word here. If you discover your real identity, and only you can do it,
Mhm.
ultimately, you can eventually let that person out for the world to see, and then the hopefully the world will see that your true identity. But more important is that you see your true identity and you go out into the world then as that person, the royal, the princess, the person of value, the special person, the goddess, the god, the whatever metaphor you come up with or archetype you come up with. That's the real self.
Right, absolutely. And that's, I think, the toughest because everybody is really drowned with social media, with everything today. And nobody knows who they really are because everything they see is so much information that eventually you just want to imitate someone. You just completely lose yourself. You don't know what is right for you anymore because it's right for this one. So maybe it's right for me as well. So that's a total mess today. And that's why, in my opinion, writing is so important. And just sit down and write a little bit of a story and invent a little character because that will navigate who you want to be. And sometimes it's absolutely the opposite of what you see in the social media and who you think you want to be, because you usually don't want to be that people. You want to be something else, something completely different. And we don't allow ourselves to see that. We don't allow ourselves to sit down and ask, what is my favorite fairy tale and who I would love to be? Right? If I was this character in a fairy tale, where would I go? Would I fly? I don't know. What would I do? Would I be a princess or who I am? I think that this fairy tale therapy is also very interesting. And when you choose the fairy tale of the fairy tale that you like, the personage that you like in the fairy tale, not a movie, that also can open up a lot about yourself, like how you really see life, how you see yourself, who you really are. And sometimes people say, this witch is my favorite character, and you can tell that the person is tricky. Right?
Uh-huh, uh-huh,
And the
uh-huh.
way he sees life or she sees life is kind of, can be revengeful and all that stuff.
Hmm.
So that really shows how you treat people, how you want to be treated as well. This is
Hmm.
amazing. And I also have this question in my 75 questions of if you could choose your favorite fairy tale or cartoon or anything or movie, whatever, a character, who would that be? Who would this, and when people tell me, they start smiling suddenly, or the opposite, they start going darker, and I can tell what is hidden there very
Hmm.
deep inside, even if they
Right,
pretend to be perfect and all that. um
right.
yeah, so this is very, very interesting. All right, so if we can say that there's an arc of a character, can you just name um how would say four main techniques, four main points where we have to put our attention to while creating a character? First, it's a problem, so we know where we're playing, what we want to improve. Second is the goal that we always remember about, and then the other two, what that will be.
Right. So that's right. So I have my students, they have a character who has a world, who lives in a particular world, has a problem. There's something else that they want in life, and you call that a goal, and that works. There is what in every feature film, there is a turning point. And the turning point is when, come here, kitty. The turning point is when um, the character faces what is a change in their trajectory. Now,
Mhm.
it could be that the change in their trajectory is that they are suddenly desperate, that it feels like they've lost, that they failed. And that could be the change. Or it could be like, for example, in Rocky, the change was that out of the clear blue sky, the character had the opportunity to fight the heavyweight champion of the world, but he was very frightened. So there's a turning point. And what that is we're actually, we have many turning points in life. But the turning point is a point at which there's a change in the character's, it's an opportunity.
Mhm.
It could be negative or positive, but say, for example, in a person's real life, the the turning point could be that their relationship fails.
Mhm.
Or it could be that an enemy shows up in their life. Or it could be that they move to a new country. Or it could be, you see, it's a big change. The change brings them many, many potential problems, but those problems could be strengthening the character. And then that next thing, the fourth thing that they're heading toward is there's a climactic moment that the
Mhm.
change brought. So, for example, if you have a character and their turning point in life was that maybe they had a relationship end. And now there are many changes, many problems that they need to face. They want to start their life again. They need to get a job. Maybe they're moving. Maybe they have to find a way to rebuild themselves. That's heading towards something. And what I tell my students, I call it the big confrontation, or we could call it the climax. We could
Mhm.
but they're heading toward a moment when that will bring them suddenly into focus. So for
Mhm.
Rocky, he actually had to get in the ring with Apollo Creed.
Right.
So the turning the turning point was he had the opportunity to fight Apollo Creed.
Mm-hmm.
Then there were many, many problems where heading toward that possibility, and then he got in the ring. When he got in the ring, there was the climactic moment. Was he going to lay down and die, or was he going to stand up and fight? And what he did in that moment is he
Right.
found himself. He found the person who could face down the heavyweight champion of the world. And so the 4 moments you've said are, we start with a character who has a world and a problem, but they have a goal. There's a turning point, and then there's a climax. So those
Mm-hmm.
are the 4 stages.
Do you think we can really write them um, ourselves before that happened? Like we, you know, predict them in a way so that it's not painful when something happens? Can we choose which turning point we can have in life?
Yes, because, well, no, I don't think you can choose the turning points because these
Naturally,
come
yeah.
to you. Yeah, sometimes the turning point is you're in a desperate situation, but or a problem comes, or the divorce, or the lose the job, or these turning points I think come, but the you have the goal, and that you see that in the distance. You see it a long ways away. That was like, for me, it was my heart.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw that in the distance, and it's like life is hard, but she wants to head toward that
Right.
heart. So while you don't get to choose all of the goal, I'm sorry, you don't get to choose all the problems.
Right.
You have the vision in the distance of, like, maybe the visual is, okay, now she is a kitchen maid, but she knows that secretly deep down she's the princess. So maybe the picture is she's floating in clouds with a beautiful crown or something.
Mm-hmm. Right. That was also, I remember that on my personal example when I lived in Russia, and I always wanted to live in Paris. That was something that I dreamt of since I was a kid. And I was going to university, or I was going to my to work, and I was going thinking like, okay, if I was in Paris right now, I would have I would have wore this thing. I would have put this dress on. I would have said this thing. I would have listened to this song. And it was always this picture that no matter what's wrong was there around, no matter how I felt, I always thought, okay, I'm a Parisian girl. So how would a Parisian girl act in this case? And my goal was always to move to Paris, and that finally happened. And that happened like in 1 second. So I always knew that that didn't happen by accident. It didn't happen just because the circumstances were good. It happened because I lived already in Paris for so long time, but just in my imagination. But I knew the character so well. So when I happened to be in Paris and I found myself here, everybody told me, "Oh my God, Sophie, it's amazing. Paris suits you so well." I said, "Of course it does. I already know it
Uh-huh.
so well."
Uh-huh.
So the problem, so and when I had these problems of moving in, and the problems with apartment or something, whatever, which I didn't have that many because I knew it had to be perfect because that was totally my city. But still, the confrontation that I had was always, I knew that I had this confrontation, so there was a problem. But I was always thinking about how would that's what I want so much. So this problem is actually just a detail to make it more interesting, because that will bring me more ideas. It will bring me more people. It will bring me more, I don't know, interesting points. So I always try to see not just positivity, but actually result of what I'm having. And it, again, I was looking at it as a picture, as a movie. It always helped to me. So that's amazing. I'm just giving my example so that people also understand that it really does work. It's not just phrases, but it's actually working
Mhm.
totally.
Right.
That's absolutely amazing.
You created it out of yourself. You visualized it. And
Absolutely.
you it felt real to you, so you made it real in life. You
In
made
life,
it real. Yes.
absolutely. Um, yeah, I would love to ask some questions that the clients ask. I'm so
Okay.
sorry, so that I don't want to lose your time. And there are not that many, but they really were interested in knowing this. Um, for example, this question, we already talked a lot about that, but still, can a story really start if the character doesn't know what they want and where do they want to go? How do you usually deal with that when you're writing?
I think that it's fine to not be clear in the beginning because it's a discovery.
Discovery.
Even writing a movie is a discovery. You don't know everything that's coming. It's a matter of being aware of one's feelings and thoughts and discovering oneself like one discovers a character in a movie. So it's just watching yourself as if you're a character. Oh, she
Mhm.
likes this. She didn't like that. Oh, she
Mhm.
says this in this
Right.
situation. Observing. It's just
Observing.
observing the self.
That's amazing. How do you personally choose the name for the character? What is this process for you? Uh, how do you do that? Where do you come with this? Where does it come from?
You know, I guess I ask myself what sounds right to me, and
Um,
then one will sound right. It's like, or maybe here. I really believe in asking myself to give. I ask myself to give myself lessons in my dreams. So my dreams will often help me a lot. And if I ask myself, listen, when you sleep tonight, please come up with my name, you know,
mm,
please come up with the
interesting.
character's name. Then in my dreams, I will find myself working on it. Well, what about this? What about that? And then I will hit on answers so that as I'm starting to wake up, the answers will start to float up. So I think ask yourself to work on it in your
In
dreams.
your dreams. But basically it's also working with your subconsciousness
Exactly. It's your
fully.
subconscious.
Right.
It's your subconscious.
It's only subconscious can really answer all of our questions. And as
Yeah.
I said, the name is really interesting. I know that there are some people who actually devote their life to names. Basically, they see what the name means, what the number of
Oh,
the name. It's a whole science. And I started doing it a little bit, and it's very interesting tool that you can use, because when you close your eyes and suddenly the name pops up, and you say, oh my god, why this name? And then you go check the meaning, and it just answers all your questions and suddenly
oh,
navigates you. It's super interesting, and it gives the character the energy,
yeah.
the story. Like, it's
Yes.
amazing tool.
I love that.
um Another question, which is very interesting also, what if the character changes a lot during the process of writing, and you can tell that the one you were thinking in the beginning is not anymore the one that you are writing about right now? Like, the values maybe is changing and something else. Do you think it's important to cut the character from the old surroundings and totally change everything and the behavior of the character as well? Uh, or he has to adopt.
I think he was discovering himself. And I think, some movies have a lot of change.
Right.
Some, some just do. Some are huge, huge arcs. and some are subtle and they're just little tiny internal changes. So I think it's completely fine to have a character have huge changes because he could be discovering the real
Absolutely.
self under many layers, and that can be a beautiful thing. So he doesn't need to cut off the past self and say, that self didn't exist because that could have been just the seed that
Exactly.
gave birth to the tree.
But it's like I say always, you have to start playing before you see where the game goes to. It's just
Yeah.
you can't say anything. You can write down the character, but if you don't really play the character in real life, if you don't try it, nothing's gonna work. So, and it's normal if something changes. So that's absolutely true. There are some questions about your movie because the movies itself, all of them, and. Uh, so she wrote a lot of questions, um, just the phrases that she really loved. And for example, one of them is uh, catch catch life the way it is. How
Uh-huh.
can I don't know how it was really sounded in the
Uh-huh.
original, but
Uh-huh.
that's how she wrote it in the Russian.
Uh-huh.
So catch life as it is, basically the way it is. Um, what can you say about that? How can we dig deeper into this phrase?
Well, I think the characters, they were in the first movie, they were two young people. They were in their early 20s,
Hmm.
and they're tossing around ideas and trying to they're trying to understand how to live. Young people,
Hmm.
I mean, we're always trying to understand how to live, but they were being philosophical with one another and trying to find the beauty in reality. So, so I suppose I'm not sure what obviously that's like a Russian
Yeah,
translation,
it's a Russian
uh,
translation.
but but I'm not sure exactly which line that was, but I think that a lot of the lines were about characters trying to find beauty in reality.
Beauty in
Mhm.
reality. Basically, beauty
Mhm.
in the moment. So that's what we can say. Try to find beauty in the
Mhm.
moment. And other line that I really loved, and it tells a lot. Um, also from when I started our conversation with the question about the book and the title of the book, that's a little bit about the same. So uh, one second, I just that in reality there is no us, and we just live in the dream of an old lady who is remembering her youth before death, basically. So
Mhm.
we are just the memory,
Memory.
yeah,
Yeah.
of an old person, of somebody who is already out, gonna be out
Yeah.
soon. And I loved it because I don't know again how it was an original, what was the original line, but um I don't know, it just made me feel so good because we have to go to the end. It's what you were saying also in the beginning, that you think about the goal that already there. And we also have to think when we're super old, and we're telling stories, and we are telling somebody who we don't know these stories, and it might change their world forever. What would we actually choose to tell? What would we choose to feel? What will be these 5 chapters?
Yeah. I often think about life in terms of being on my deathbed and what
Mhm.
I will have wanted to accomplish. Like I I don't think it would mean much to me to have made money. I don't think that would have been the important thing, or acquired a lot of material things. Though don't get me wrong, I mean, we're material beings in a material world, and it certainly is nice to have some material things, but I think when I die, what I will want is to look back and think about things I created that hopefully made the world a better place or connected with people or made them feel happy or gave them meaning. I guess I'm always searching for meaning.
Meaning, right?
And so it would be wonderful to sit there and think I created this thing and this thing and this thing that had meaning for people. That's what I want, you know?
Incredible.
Yeah.
What is the, what can you say? What can you, uh, how can I say it? What is the biggest meaning for you today? What is what you can say that means so much for me? I'm so happy. I'm going through it, or I went through it, or it's like some big meaning that you can really name.
Well, at the age I am now, I am looking back and I'm thinking how great it is to get older. And I mean, I
Mm,
come from a very youth-oriented country, and I think my country is making the world youth-oriented.
hmm.
And I live in a youth-oriented city. But fortunately, I think the world is starting to understand the value of hanging in there and having a long and healthy life. Because at the age I am now, I see meaning where, for example, when I was younger, I felt kind of lost and things were very painful. And I felt like this is terrible, you know.
Hmm.
But now looking back, I think to myself that I'm proud of the fact that I hung in there with things. It's maybe it's like Cinderella or like Rocky.
Hmm.
And I think, you know, if I would have known then what I know now, which is that hanging in there and standing up, even when I was so exhausted and depleted and maybe feeling hopeless, that there was meaning that would come to me later, that I would see myself and see the journey I went on and feel a fulfillment. And
So the most important is you learned how to see this meaning also. That's the most important thing, right? To actually be able
absolutely.
to notice this meaning afterwards.
Yes. I mean,
Mhm.
I think that we human beings are creatures who make meaning. Maybe that's what separates us from the rest of the animal
Mhm.
kingdom is that we create meaning. And we live in a world where there's a lot of turmoil, especially now. There's so much turmoil. But we are now understanding that we need to create meaning to make our well to function as individuals and to make our world work. We need to agree on meaning that is positive and good, you know?
Amazing. What would you tell to a devil if he was in front of you?
Thank you for challenging me.
You know, it's so amazing. Then when I ask this question, I love devils, you know, all these characters. And almost never, I think, I don't remember at least, somebody told me something bad and negative, you know, so when the answer was like, oh my God, like, I don't know, something really negative. Every time it's either thank you, either it's a question, there's something. And in my opinion, this is so important because nobody's actually afraid of negativity. We just don't know how to deal with that. But we can have so much from it, like obstacle is an opportunity. And every devil can be a big friend eventually as a
Mhm,
character that can
mhm,
actually answer a lot of questions and make you so strong.
mhm.
And
Absolutely.
I love this character, and I mean, I love philosophy, so I do a lot of things, I write a lot of texts about devils and all this stuff, and it always helps me to solve a lot of my problems while writing.
That is such a good idea that you come up with excellent ideas. Um, in creating a character. You come up with really good ideas, Sophie.
Thank you. This is a great pleasure for me to hear that from you. And I really would love to know, what is your next project? What are you working on right now? Where can we see your work, communicate with you? How can people connect with you if there's any possibility for that?
Well, so thank you for asking. People can connect with me the way you and I found each other. So I'm on Instagram, just my name, Kim Krizan, on Instagram, and I write about what I'm doing there. I'm going to have a writing workshop in Paris this coming August, so it's August 2026,
We're gonna
and
come.
I I would love to see everybody there. And so when I'm in Paris, of course, I hope to meet you in
Oh,
person.
absolutely. That's not even
Absolutely.
no doubt.
The city of light. So I will post about all of this on my Instagram, but that's the spot to find me.
Are you working on any movies right now? Are you still in the movie business?
Yeah, well, yes. When something comes my way, so for example, I love Europe. I love Europe. And a European producer asked me to write an idea for a television show. And she is now trying to get that produced in Europe. If it comes to fruition, it's a difficult business, but if it
Mhm.
comes to fruition, I'll post about that on my Instagram. And I'm always thinking about new projects that I'm working on. One of my big things is I don't talk about them too much because I don't want to release the idea out of my where I'm
Right.
incubating the idea. I don't want to release it too much because
Uh-huh.
it's cooking. So I am thinking about a new project, but um, yes, I have things something in development that I hope gets produced in
Oh,
Europe.
amazing. I would love to know about that as well, because if you're in Europe, that would be incredible to see some. I mean, your movie is about Paris. This most famous movie was shot in Paris. This is incredible. That's how people, I guess, found out about you, right? Everything started there.
Well, so Before Sunrise was set in Vienna, Austria, and
Uh-huh.
that's where the characters got off the train together. But the sequel is set in Paris.
Right.
And when I met with my seminar students this past August, we actually walked around Paris together and looked
Oh,
at some
amazing.
locations. So,
Amazing. This is amazing. And just the last question. If you choose, if you were choosing your alter ego today, what would that be? Who would you personally like to play in real life?
oh, are you saying a character in a movie
In
that
life,
in life?
what is your character that we don't know about, but you would have one day loved to play it in real life?
Well, like I said earlier, I would have loved to have played. I love these femme fatale characters from 1940s films. I'm that for the most part they capture so much of my imagination. But now at the age I am now, I think I am veering toward someone who's more. I'm heading more toward mythology. Oh, I know. In The
Mm.
Wizard of Oz, let me think about this. In The Wizard of Oz, maybe I could be Glinda the Good Witch.
Uh-huh.
Do you remember Glinda the
Yes,
Good
of course,
Witch?
of course. And I would have imagined you to be the good witch. Yeah.
I loved her. I loved her. Maybe I can be Glinda the Good Witch.
Wow. And how would you change the world? What would be the first magic spell that you would have put on someone as a good witch? What would they be about?
For an individual or for the world?
Let's say we start from the individual, but we can spread it to the world eventually.
Well, I think that if each individual knows that who they are and what they do ripples throughout the world and they change people. So if each individual knows that if they come at the world and other people with heart, with kindness, with
Mhm.
honesty, that affects people and that spreads. So you could be the reason why somebody makes it through another day because maybe it's just your kindness in saying hello or smiling or opening a door. That might be all that person needed that day because they could have been had, in a dark place. Or conversely, you could have met somebody who needed to be stopped in their tracks because maybe that person was unkind and selfish, and maybe you said no. And no, that's not the way it's going to be today. You're not going to do that with me. And you set up a boundary that said, you're not going to be able to treat me that way. Sorry. And maybe that person then had a realization, I can't go through life like this anymore. I need to grow up or I need to
Mhm.
stop being selfish. So I think the way you behave in the world ripples
That's
through
amazing.
the world.
I think it sounds like a wish to the audience, you know? Remember that
Yeah.
it all
Yeah.
ripples. Kim, that was absolutely an honor, and it's amazing to be able to speak with you. This is so inspirational. Thank you so much. I would have loved to continue the conversation forever, but I just don't want to take most of your time. Thank you so much. I'm really waiting for you in Paris.
It's such a joy to talk to you, Sophie. I feel like we are like souls and life souls, and
I feel
and
that too.
I'm looking forward to meeting you. I think your students are very, very lucky to have you, and we'll meet in Paris.
And
Okay,
I hope we're gonna, some of my students, I hope will come to you. And maybe one day we're gonna make some beautiful journey together. Who knows what it will be, but I'm sure something interesting can be born.
I would love that. I would love that. Have a great, great day and evening, and I think you're doing wonderful things. So thank you very much, Sophie.
Thank you. Have a wonderful
Okay,
day
bye-bye.
also.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Олечка, нажми на